Hello guys. Since you guys app first and then focus on the other ones, this is what we're going to do. So for today's video, we are going to do the update on the Google sign in and sign up because they really changed the way it works. Okay. First of all, you have to make sure that you have this on your PubSpec file, but I believe you guys have the Google sign in. Okay, and if you are using Android, there's nothing more you have to do other than this. But if you are on iOS, you have to do a small thing as well, which is you have to open your iOS, and then we will want to open our runner because we want to edit our info plist. Okay, and I believe I have this. Alright. Okay. Let me 1 second. Let me open my, and I'll write here Flutter Google sign in. You have it. And what we want is to open in here. And then we will want to copy this piece of code in here. And this is for configuring the Google sign in using iOS. After you have that copied, you can put this on full screen. I have it here already actually, but I'll just copy it again to make sure you guys understand how this happened. Okay, this is what you have to do, and the final part is you have to replace this string down here with the actual reversed client ID. And where do you find that reversed client ID? You just go to your Google info plist, and now we will be looking for the reversed client ID, which is this one. Copy the reverse client ID and you go to your info plist, and just like that, we're going to paste that. Okay, this is all you have to do on your iOS side. Don't worry if you guys are using Android and this is being boring. Don't worry, it's done. Now let's see how this is structured, and now is the time to start managing the project properly, because there's a lot of mess here on the code of this whole structure, but we are going to go we're going to come back into it afterwards. But there's something I usually do, and I would recommend you guys to start doing as well, because there's a lot of things that you just repeat the code over and over. And to avoid that, I'll just create a new Dart file, and let's call this commons slash common, for example. And we're going to have this new Dart file, and I like to do this way because I think it's better. So inside of here we can just import the Flutter material package, and to be able to define some variables that are going to be global colors. For example, if I want to use this orange, and I'll just set that equal to, let me go back to the login and see, this is actually deep orange. So I can copy this and come back to the comments, and here I'll give this the name of deep orange, and then Okay, this is supposed to be color because we are only specifying a single color. Then we have colors dot deep orange. Okay, now this is misspelled, deep orange. Now what's the big advantage of doing this? The big advantage of doing this is we can just come back to the login, and every time we want to make use of this deep orange, we just write deep orange. Of course we'll need to import, let me zoom. Of course we'll need to import, and that's all. Now just write colors deep orange and it's done. Let's do the same for black just to make sure you guys get my point. Go back to the commands and we are going to define color black being equal to this, and when we go back to the login, instead of writing all of this, every time we want to use black, we'll just write black. Isn't this great? Okay, so this is just to show how we're going to flow, how the flow is going to be in here. Now let's go back to our DB and we will create another file. I'm going to call this out for authentication because this is going to deal with all the authentications we may need to do, and I believe that I may need to import some packages in here like the Firebase auth. We're going to need this. We're going to need to import our Cloud Firestore as well, and we're going to need to import what's that, the Google sign-in. Okay, I'm going to create an abstract class here, and for now we'll just define a method which is going to be a feature of the type Firebase user, and we're going to call this Google sign in. Okay, and now we can define a class. We're going to call this class auth for authentication, and it implements base auth. We're going to have an error because we need to override this method. So what I'm going to do is done. So now we have this method. What we have to do now is let's go back to our pubspec file and let's make sure we're using the latest version of the Google sign-in and all of the other packages. So we will need to update this. I want to change the version because this one might be too old. So we have that, the new version I want to use, and let's check the Firebase auth as well. Just to make sure we're running on the latest version of everything, or most of the things we want to use for now at least. Where's our Firebase auth? Here it is. Run a basic packages get here. Okay, now we have some problems. What does it say? Cloud functions, blah blah blah. Cloud Firestore. Let's update this as well. Oh, as a matter of fact, what I can do, because I don't want to waste time going to one project at a time, is I could, okay, you know, let's do that like this. Firestore. We copy this and we're going to paste where we have Firestore. Here we have it. Let's run a packages get. Now we have a version problem with this. I will specify the specific version afterwards. I'll just put any to save us some time. Okay, perfect, it's working perfectly. Okay, so we had to come in and change a bit the dependencies here. Now let's go back to our Google sign-in method and start working on the process of changing that. So the very first thing you will want to do here, we'll define a final Google sign-in. We're going to call this Google sign-in is equal to Google sign-in. Boom, it's done. Or since this is going to be used only here inside of this method, I can just define inside here everything. The first part that we want is done. We want the final Google sign-in account. Google sign-in account, which is going to be equal to our Google sign-in dot sign-in. We are signing our user, our Google user in, but since this is going to return a future, we'll need to await. And then we need the final Google sign-in authentication, and we can just call this Google Auth because I don't want to give it that a very long name. Of course, we'll need to use await, and we are going to be awaiting for, here we can change this to Google account only, just a variable name. You don't have to change it if you don't want. Google One account dot authentication, and here we are running our authentication for that user. And now we're going to run another finals going out credential, and this is the difference. This is how things are done now. So we're going to get the credentials for the user inside of another object called, or another class called Google provider is what we want. Google Auth provider dot get credentials, and for the ID token you'll just write Google Auth dot ID token, and for the access token we are going to use again Google Auth called dot access token. Let me try to make this more visible. So this is the way it works. Now you use this auth credential, and here we define for the Google provider, we get the credentials for the ID token and the access token, and both are going to be properties of the Google authentication. Now when we have that done, we can just use a try and catch block. We could do this differently, but it's okay. It's okay. Now inside of here we are going to try to get our Firebase user await. We may need to create another object here, Firebase auth, which is going to be equal to Firebase auth. Firebase auth instance. Now what we're going to do here is create again our Firebase authentication instance, and then we'll just specify sign in with credential, and we're going to get the credential. Okay, and this will do. And from here we can just return our user. And inside of here we want to print our error in case we get any, and then we can return now. Okay, perfect. Now let's just import Dart sync here. Okay, so here there's a lot of things going on, but for now this is all we have to do. This is the code that has to be here. Done. What we can do now, let's go to our sign up page. Let's go to our sign up page, and here inside of our sign up we are going to remove all of this code related to the sign up or the creation of users from here, but probably on the next video because I don't want to make this too long. But anyways, for now I'll just write here auth for the authentication, and just alt enter and import this. Okay, that's perfect. Now we're going down. For example, here as we did our improvement, we can delete this and just write deep orange, just like that, and you'll need to import this file just like that. And even for white, I can go to our comments, and now we'll and I'll define another color, white, and I'm going to call this white. So this kind of makes the process easier. Where is the file we're working on? Here. So here, instead of writing colors.white, I can just come and write white. That's good. That is good. Okay, now we have here the Facebook option and the Google option. We're going to make this asynchronous, and in here we'll just hit auth.google sign in. but this is going to return something, which is our Firebase user await, of course. Oops. And then what are we going to be doing here is, if our user is not null, we can first do our user services dot create user, and create user expects a string of values that I kind of forgot how they're structured, but I'll define them here. I'll provide name being equal to user dot display name. Okay, I'll provide the photo or the picture, profile picture of the user. It's going to be equal to user dot for the URL, and the final thing that we want from this user would be his email address, which can only be user dot email. Let's see how this is structured now. And here I'm using Firebase database, but I don't want to do this. I want to use let me go back here. I want us to start using Firestore because that's better. So now we are going to open up our users file. We don't need you anymore, Firebase database. Bye. So here we need our Firebase Firestore. Firebase Firestore instance, and that's all we need. Now in here, let's change the way this works as well. I know there's a lot of modifications, but bear here with me and it's going to be done soon. And to be simple, let's write here Firestore instead of database. So we have firestore.collection, and the name of the collection, just change here to collection, and the name of the collection is going to be user. So collection dot document. We are going to value from that map, and we'll define a value called key. And then finally we have set data, and here we have values, or to make this simple we can call this data. Okay, kaboomba, it's done. So what are we doing here is we are setting an instance of the Firestore. So we're creating a collection document. The document ID is going to be the data key, and then we have here set data Or to make this easier for you guys to understand, I can just write user ID. Okay, perfect. Now when you go back to our sign up screen, we just have to add here that our user ID is equal to user.uid, and this user ID is going to be used as the document ID. Okay, after this is done, we will want to go straight to our home page. But to make that possible, I don't want to write all of that code, so I will show you guys a trick because I don't like code repetition. We can come here to our comments, and I'll comment here, I'll write methods, and this is just a set of methods that we use over and over. Change screen is name of the method, and it's going to take a build context and a widget. So we took a build context and a widget. So what are we going to do here is navigator dot push material page route. From that particular context, we want to build our widget, and that's all. So every time we want to change a screen, instead of writing that again, we'll just use this method, and here change screen replacement, and here I'll just put push replacement. Okay, that's all. Now let's go back to our sign up, and finally we have here, if that process is done, we will want to use change screen replacement, and in here we want to go straight to our home page. So guys, this is the coding that has to be done for this to work. See you on the next one.